Hi boys, welcome to Outcome 2. Outcome 1 is finished. This is a pretty long outcome and it's worth 40 marks. So we'll break it up into pieces as we go along. Alright, so let's get into it. So first of all, we're going to look at what an actual management structure is. So every organisation has a management structure. And quite often it's formal, sometimes it can be informal, but for large organisations it's normally a formal management structure. And what that is it's the way in which the parts of the organisation are formally arranged, and they do that in order to try and achieve their objectives. Because essentially, that, as we know, through their vision, mission, goals and objectives, that's what they're trying to do. It's set out in... It can be set out in what we call a management hierarchy. Now, this will make sense in a second. First of all, why is a structure important? First of all, it shows the way in which communication flows throughout the organisation. And it also shows possibly a career path that you might be after or you might be able to go for. So it shows who your boss is and who you're responsible to and responsible for. So you can have a look at that. I'll show you an example in a second, which should make sense. This essentially is a management hierarchy. Okay, so here's all the workers down the bottom. They have managers themselves, and those managers might be responsible for 2, 4, 10 people. Depends, could be more. Just depends on the organisation. So they're their sort of supervisors. Now, those supervisors have managers also. They're often department managers, so it could be a marketing manager, human resource manager, and they're responsible for a group or one or more of those supervisors. And then you've got your top management. So they're right at the top, heading into the board of directors, and they actually make the decisions on where the organisation's heading. Now, we don't need to know these types of planning yet. We'll get into that in a second, but this is sort of your basic day-to-day planning. These people do your sort of medium-term planning, and as I said, these guys do your strategic planning. So how this all works, so a management structure, I'll show you an example of one right now. If I can just go here. So this is only a small organisation, or a medium organisation I should say. It's not large. However, you can see here how there's the director at the top, there's the general manager, and then here are the more senior managers here. So they're in sort of departments. So you've got purchasing manager, an estimating manager, an office manager. So they're responsible. So let's take a look at the office manager, for example. This office manager is responsible for the payroll manager. So the payroll manager reports these little lines here in between the people. They're lines of communication. So the office manager is the boss of the payroll manager, who is the boss of the accounts receivable, this Lizzie Kelly person, and then the accounts payable person, Holly, and then Kim and Nicole are down here as the office assistants. But essentially, the office manager is responsible for all of them, but possibly the office assistant doesn't directly report to this Christine Blaney person. They will report directly to Holly. Holly will report directly to Lizzie, etc., etc. Okay, so that's sort of a hierarchy. So these people down here are the workers. Then there's some middle managers or some lower managers, some middle managers, and then some higher managers. And this is essentially the general manager who is responsible for all of this. They're in charge of all of this. They're ensuring they'll have direct contact with all these people up the top, because you can see there's a direct line of communication with to the general manager. And then the general manager reports to the director. So that is a medium organisation's organisational structure. Okay. Now, getting back to the presentation, we need to look at centralised versus decentralised. Now, centralised, if I go back, if I press the right button, centralised means that the decisions are made with these top managers. So these top level managers, I should say. All right. Decentralized is where the power of decisions is done throughout all levels of the organisation. So that means that all decisions can be made throughout the entire organisation. So it's not just these senior managers that are making the decisions. These lower managers and sometimes the workers are able to make decisions within the organisation. So that's the difference between centralised and decentralised in terms of management structures. There are three types of management structures that we're going to look at. Functional, divisional, and geographic. We can use them separately, but we'll class them as the same thing for now. And matrix structure. So a functional structure, remember our management functions? We had R&D, research and development, human resource management, marketing, production or operations, and accounting and finance. So they were our key management functions. However, these can be used as what we call a functional management structure. So all the division of labour is built into different functions. So the HR manager, they may have 10, 50, 100, 1,000 people underneath them, depending on how large the organisation is. Same with marketing, they'll have all these different people under them with different series of managers. So the division of labour is sorted out by function for this. Now the advantages of that. Minimises duplication of personnel. Employees, because if you're in the marketing department and you've got a marketing manager, you're with marketing people, so you talk the same language. You may have done marketing or done marketing degrees. You've all got experience in marketing, so you can actually, it's quite dynamic. You're with people that you're used to talking to. It's specialised, and for that reason, because you're all marketing people, or if you're in the HR department, you're all HR people. It makes sense that you'll be highly productive. Disadvantages of the functional structure is sometimes you can lose sight of the organisation's best interest because you're dealing in your own function. It might be that you think, well, if you're in the marketing department, we're the most important because we're the ones that actually sell the product. And the HR department might think, well, actually we're the most important, so, because we're the ones dealing with the employees and making sure that everyone's in the right place. So there can be conflict between them, and you can sort of lose sight of what's in the organisation's best interest, and you might be looking at sometimes what's actually in the best interest of that department or that function. And as a result of that, you can also be insulated and have sort of not a lot of understanding of what other functions are doing. So you might think, well, this, why do they get a bigger budget than us? We're more important, and you're not really sure about what they're doing. Divisional and geographical. So we've got a divisional one here, and we've got a geographical one here. Very similar. Essentially, the work, rather than functions like a HR manager, marketing manager, etc., these are done by types of divisions. So it could be product, it could be service, it could be location, could be type of customers. So the location one is the geographical chart. So let's look at the divisional, normally split into either product lines, service lines, or types of customers. Here we've got a managing director for music sales, and then you've got CD sales, MP3 sales, DVD sales, sheet music, and what do we got there? Electronic equipment sales. So those managers are responsible for those divisions. With a geographical chart, you've got done by location, geographical location. So HR manager for New South Wales and ACT, HR manager for Victoria. Now you can see here there's HR managers all over the place, and then you would have the same marketing manager, Tasmania, WA marketing manager, etc. It can duplicate resources, and that's one of the drawbacks of it. So the advantages, it's often focused more on results. Managers have full responsibility for a product or service, and as a result of that, that lies in here, it can help develop senior executives, because underneath them, under each division, they'll have a marketing person, they'll have a HR person, etc. Especially if it's done by actual product. As I said, disadvantage, it duplicates activities and resources, and that results in higher costs and reduced efficiency. Now, if those two aren't the preferred one for the organisation, we have what we call a matrix model, and it's a mixture between the functional and divisional. It's used when neither of those actually work, and it's actually done by project. So the specialisation is by project. Now, there's a couple of things here. There's two different managers. So here's just a general manager for music promotions. Underneath them, they've got a production manager, HR manager, finance, accounting. So this is functional. Exactly the same as a functional structure. However, down the side here, there are also projects. Okay, so let's have a look at CD of the Year project. Block A, if you're in that block, you're in the production area for the CD of the Year project. Now that means you have two managers. You have a production manager and you have a project manager. If you were over here, all right, let's say you're in this block here, you'd be on the top 10 project and you'd be in the accounting section. So you would have two managers. You'd have an accounting manager and you would have a project manager. Now the beauty of this is that when these projects are over, is that it's highly flexible. So you can just put in new projects all the time. So it creates lots of flexibility. Downside is if you haven't got enough work, then you've got all these people employed and you've got nothing for them to do. So advantages, highly flexible. It can be altered quickly to suit whatever's going on at the time. You're in teams, you're more working in teams, so it enhances teamwork. There's experience from different areas, because if you're on a particular project, you'll be dealing with, and you're in marketing, you'll be dealing with HR, you'll be dealing with production. So you're actually learning from each other. And the disadvantages, undermines line authority. Line authority means that there's one manager, where you've got a person above you that's a manager. But in this situation, there's two managers, so it actually undermines that. And you know, if those two managers aren't communicating well, then which manager would you listen to? So that makes conflict a possibility. So they're the management structures. I'm not expecting you to understand all of that right now. We'll spend plenty of time in class going over these three structures and the purpose of them. But that is the first video. It was a long one, but wasn't a lot of writing. So we'll cover more of that in class.